Welcome to our first episode of Extra Credit. I'm Preston McBride, standing here with...
I'm Alan Hickson.
Extra Credit's all about a spin-off on the Castlewood Canyon Dam episode that we did. We're going to talk a little bit about a man we discovered. His name's Rufus Clark, also known as the Potato King. Clark cultivated multiple crops, but his main crop was potatoes.
Hey, Preston.
Hey Alan, how's it going?
Good. What are we looking at today?
Rufus Potato Clark. Remember the Potato King? I actually found a picture on him right here. Check this out. It's kind of wild.
Oh, yeah.
Excited to shoot this extra credit, be able to cover a lot of those facts that I was kind of bummed out that we weren't able to cover before, but I'm glad we're able to come here today to kind of discuss Rufus Clark, you know, the Potato King and all that, kind of get more info on him.
This is the headstone of Rufus the Potato King Clark right here behind us. And you may be aware that we did talk a little bit about Rufus during our Castlewood Canyon Dam episode, but we didn't have enough time to get everything in there for you, so we're out here today to bring you up to speed.
Also like to note that he did have two wives who he was buried both with.
As a teenager, he ran away from home, became a sailor, where he spent about 10 years at sea. He then spent 2 years in California after gold had been discovered in the mines. He did later travel to Australia by way of a shipwreck.
In Australia, he did some more gold mining and then had to walk from Sydney to Melbourne, which is almost 400 miles.
In 1859, he filed on a homestead at the location of the Highlands Ranch golf course.
His first harvest was so abundant, he then became known as the Potato King.
In July 1859, he arrived with his wife and kid from Iowa to Colorado in an ox-covered wagon.
He then staked a claim to a farm which is now the Overland Municipal Golf Course.
The Overland Municipal Golf Course is actually located along the South Platte River, which runs along Ruby Hill Park, which is where we are in. His word was so honorable that the bankers took his word for what it was and would lend him any sort of money he needed with no collateral. In 1864, he was elected as one of the first representatives on state territorial legislature. He then traveled to West Africa, Sierra Leone specifically, to invest in the Rufus Clark and Wife Training Center.
The school opened in 1887, where it originally only had 8 students. So you're here with us today. Now we're at DU, and Preston's going to tell you why.
Absolutely so. In 1886, Rufus Clark, the same year that him and his wife established their school in Africa, they decided to give 80 acres to the Methodists to practice their teachings and have a university here in Denver to work at.
Rufus Clark did have some conditions, one of them being that no alcohol was to be made or sold within the vicinity of DU.
Rufus Clark had another condition along with the alcohol that Alan was touching on, that a street grid and trees would be installed within the DU limits. In 1871, Rufus Clark auctioned off sacks of potatoes to aid the Great Fire of Chicago.
So Denver presented the mayor of Chicago a check for $7,000.
Wow, Alan, that's a lot of money. In 1 year, it is believed that he earned $30,000 in just potato sales alone, which equates to about $774,000 US today.
He did serve on the Arapahoe School Board for a while and was one of the original founders of South Denver, which then actually did get enveloped by Denver.
In Iowa, he became married to a woman whose name was Mary, and in 1858 had a lovely daughter whose name was Mary. Denver in Slices said in 1959, he was a character, this Potato Clark, a seafaring man, steeped in sin and prodigious profanity, and the curse of drink. He got religion.
He had 20,000 acres, and he sold most of that property to the developers of Clark's Colony.
These were then divided up into several acre tracts where they planted a bunch of fruit trees. Unfortunately, they did wind up dying out due to the dam collapse in 1933. If you're interested in that, go ahead and check out our video about the Castlewood Canyon Dam collapse. We're now standing inside Ruby Hill Park. Why?
Well, Ruby Hill's a great spot to get a chance to kind of look out on the land that Rufus Clark had, specifically the DU Clock Tower. In 1882, Rufus Clark leased 70 acres to real estate promoters who built a racetrack in the year 1896.
Businessman Henry Wilcott bought the failing Overland racetrack and turned it into Denver's first golf course.
Henry Wilcott's golf course was so popular with the Denver elites that he had to move it to a larger plot in 1902.
In 1919, the city of Denver bought the old Overland racetrack property, where it then became the Overland Auto Camp.
When the Great Depression occurred, the slums had overtaken a lot of the auto camp that we were speaking on earlier, so they plowed it and made way for a golf course.
I'm going to read you a quote directly here. While overland development changes with the times, the rich soil below ground remains perfect for potato production.
Rufus Clark died in 1910 at the ripe age of 87.
They lived and gave of their substance for the redemption of Sierra Leone, West Africa.
Wow, powerful. If you guys want to see more of the extra credit, go ahead and click right there. If you want to see more cools, give a little tap to that left top. And if you please, by all means, subscribe for more great content.